Hey everyone, welcome to this week's AMS training on Facebook. Today is the 27th of October and we're going to just start off going over the last week of issue paid numbers for annuities and IULs from the 10th through the 20th. So first, for the number of IULs, we had a total of 1,885 families protected with an IUL. That's now 1,885 families who have access to a tax-free retirement income as well as that immediate death benefit with the IUL. And then we also had a total of 50 annuities issued for a total of $3.6 million in premium. That's $3.6 million that is now no longer subject to market risk, and 50 families who don't have to wake up in the morning looking at how the market's doing and wondering if they lost money. And then next up on the call, we are starting off with Sean doing a classroom session on buying a lottery ticket versus buying life insurance. Following that, I'm going to be interviewing an agent, Evan Chung, and just talking about how he has started to implement his virtual sales and being able to sell annuities in those sales. And then wrapping up the call, we'll hear from Shelby Spicer talking about how she's been creating value with her clients in the in-home by using different products like IULs. So stay tuned and we'll see you next week.
Hey everyone, Sean Ruggiero, president of the Advanced Market Sales Team for Family First Life. I want to talk to you today about a very clear and concise message. What are your chances? Let's talk about life insurance versus the lottery. Now, why does this come up? Well, it comes up because I was with Marcus, my third son. He's 11, and we were heading into football practice, and he forgot a water, so we went in to get a Gatorade at a gas station. And it seemingly every time I go into these gas stations, I see people purchasing two things: tobacco and lottery tickets. And it got me thinking, recently I saw a statistic on what percentage of the United States population owns life insurance. I thought, what percentage of people buy lottery tickets? And I was astounded to see how high of a percentage that was. And I thought, well, let's take a look at this. Why are so many people buying lottery tickets and not buying life insurance? And which of them is the better bet? Let's take a look. So let's start with this. Obviously, if you buy life insurance, the payoff is when you die, okay? So it's not something you're going to reap the benefits from unless it's whole life or a form of whole life in which you can build tax-free cash value. But a life insurance policy, if we're talking about something that is going to insure you and pay out hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, it pays out upon your death. So what are your chances? I went to the mortality statistics at the government website at ssa.gov, and I looked up a 40-year-old, okay? 40-year-olds really shouldn't die, but a 40-year-old, what is their death probability? And it's 0.00258% for that year. So for the year of an average male, 40, going to 41, it's 0.0025. For women, it's almost half of that. So what does that mean? That means that 258 men out of every 100,000 will die at age 40 this next year. That is 1 out of 387. Now, your odds are still very good that you're not going to die at age 40, but think about that. 1 out of every 387. That's why if I asked you, do you know anyone around age 40 who died last year? You probably do. Maybe directly, maybe in your family, or maybe one step removed, a friend of a friend, or a friend of a cousin, or a family member, or something like that. Because 1 out of 387 is actually quite low if we think about our circle of influence. Heck, many of us have thousands of friends on Facebook. If you look at that and divide it and do the math, heck, 3 of them are going to die next year, right? Kind of a scary thing. Still, odds are good that you're not going to die next year, but those are the actual statistics. So what's the chance that you win the lottery? And I use the Mega Millions. I'm not talking just about some scratch ticket winning 20 bucks, right? I'm talking about millions. When we talk about life insurance, do you insure your life for $25? Do you insure it for $100 or $500? Heck no. You insure it for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. So let's look at the Mega Millions. What are your chances that you win the Mega Millions? Okay? Well, it's right here. I pulled it off the website, okay, the lottery website. It's 1 in 176 million. 1 in 176 million. So you're like 7 decimals to the right if we look at that as a percentage. It's 0.000000568%. That means that if you had to choose a bet, which is the smarter bet? You're going to put money into a lottery ticket, or you're going to put money into a life insurance policy. Which is the smarter bet? Well, the life insurance policy, you have a 1 in 387 chance that year that it's going to pay off, and the lottery ticket, you have a 1 out of 176 million. Add to that the fact that eventually, as long as you pay your premiums, the life insurance policy will pay off, and there is no eventuality that says you're guaranteed to get a lottery ticket to pay off if you kept playing for the rest of your life. So how many people play the lottery? Right? How many people play the lottery? I was stunned when I looked this up. This was as recent as 2019. Who knows if during COVID the numbers went up or down. But in 2019, with a median age of 45 to 54, it peaked at 75% of those people played lottery at least once that year. And the other ones are around 70, 68, and the bell curve goes up and down there, right? People younger, people older have less disposable income. But we're looking at a median age group here that 75% of those people play the lottery. How many people own insurance? Well, if we look at not company owned, right? If we look at people who just own insurance, it's 55%, but 27% of those, it's owned by their company. So the true number is far below 50%. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say half. We compare that to the 75% of that mean demographic that are purchasing lottery tickets, and only half of the people out there are purchasing life insurance, knowing that the odds are significantly better that you're going to have a payoff for life insurance. Why? Why is that? Honestly, I think it has to come down to two things. One, selfishness, and two, education. I can't solve the first, but I can focus on the latter. That's why we're talking about this here. Part of the reason, it's education. Part of the reason is that life insurance is cheaper than you think. I had Nicole run me a quick quote on a 40-year-old male, non-smoker, who is relatively healthy, had a preferred rate, but not even premier, meaning this isn't even the lowest rate you can get. And I said, what would it cost for a 40-year-old male to get $2 million of level life insurance for their next 2 decades? It was only $120 a month. Think about that, $120 a month. That's like spending $4 a day on a scratch lottery ticket, and you can protect yourself and your family and your loved ones and be selfless and make the smarter bet on the life insurance rather than playing the lottery for just $4 a day. Hope this helps. I think this is a great perspective, something that was on my mind, wanted to share with your mind. If you have any questions, please email us, info@fflams.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on today's call. I have the pleasure of interviewing Evan today. He has been issuing, I think last month, a total of 5 annuities alone. And so we really wanted to just pick his brain and see what he's doing to be successful in annuities. So Evan, first, thanks for joining us. And I was just hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what team you're on, and how you got started in insurance in the first place.
Okay. Hey, Lauren, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to share with you guys. I've actually only been in the insurance industry a few years now, maybe a little over 3 years now. I did a majority of my career in the military, the U.S. Army. I retired after 22 years, about 4 years ago. And when I got out, had a short little stint in corporate America, found out that wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I did find kind of an interesting way, ended up in the insurance world. And after with a different IMO at one point, I switched over to FFL last year, and it's been an awesome experience. And so, yeah, now it's just a matter of honing my skills here in FFL because, you know, we do things a certain way here as far as leads and finding ways to utilize our business. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. Always love hearing where people came from before insurance because it's not always insurance. It's just a great career for somebody that has no prior experience. And if you're willing to learn, then I totally see people being successful here. So speaking of success, you wrote 5 annuities last month, which isn't super common. A lot of people like 1 annuity a month or maybe 1 annuity a quarter. So it's really awesome to see you out there protecting so many people's retirements. And I just wanted to pick your brain and start by kind of asking how you do the in-homes, what questions you're asking to find those opportunities.
So yeah, great question. You know, with the diversity of carriers that we have with FFL and the tools that we have, really, you know, going from final expense all the way through the annuity piece, it's just figuring out what the family needs, right?
Mhm.
And so typically what I do is most of my appointments are actually by Zoom. My first couple months, I did a lot of in-homes, kind of got my feet wet and then experienced that. But I found not only COVID, but also just for efficiency purposes, I was doing a lot of Zoom. So the thing that's an advantage for me with Zoom is that I can share my screen and I can show people how I get my information. So I like to be very transparent with people.
Yeah.
I think that when you do that, uh, people buy into that, right? They want to see how you get your information, how you back that up with statistics. How can I go get that same information, do my own research? Okay. So the Zoom gives me that, affords me that kind of that extra advantage where I can share my screen on things. Okay.
For sure.
But typically what I do with my home presentations is, obviously I introduce myself, I give a little bit of background, no more than maybe 20 seconds, just kind of tell them where I'm coming from. I don't have a 20-year career in insurance. I've never been in sales. I've never done any of this stuff. But what I do is I do care a lot about people. And so what I do is I kind of explain to them, look, I've been through the growing pains of investing for my future and protecting my own family with my kids and such, my family and my house and such. So the need for insurance and making sure I was just informed about what to do. Okay. And I've gone through those growing pains. I've had all those IRAs and those mutual funds and those term insurances, and it wasn't necessarily what fit my situation. Okay. So through learning as well as through a lot of the training, I've kind of figured out like, how can I help other people? When I get on Zooms, typically I make it very efficient. For me, that's a big thing, right? Because if I'm spending a lot of time wasted, then I'm not helping somebody else, right? So the first thing I'll do is I'll literally ask them, do you mind if I just ask you a series of questions right up front that'll help me frame this conversation? And they 100% say, sure, go ahead. And I immediately go right into my needs. Okay, I say, what's your date of birth? Do you use tobacco products? Give me your significant medical conditions. What prescription drugs are you on? Any motor vehicle record reports, issues? So I go right into everything I'm going to need for the application, right? I ask them, are you married, single? Do you have kids? How old are they? Do any of them have any significant medical conditions? Because I'm already trying to plant the seed for juvenile policies, right? I ask them what they have in the form of life insurances, and they, of course, will tell me everything. And then I ask them, do you have anything else that's similar to life insurance, like an IRA, for example, for if you were to pass away, that IRA would obviously take care of your family for you, okay? And so right then there, within the first probably 60 seconds, I've gathered a tremendous amount of information that's going to help me. And then I say, okay, then I'd like to transition and open this up to you. What are your biggest questions and concerns as you proceed forward in life or transition out of the military, or whatever the case may be? While they're sitting there explaining to me, and I'm taking notes on what they're explaining because that's where I'm going to go with this. But meanwhile, I'm already planting the seed like, okay, this is the 30-year-old versus the 50-year-old, married versus single, 5 kids versus no kids, a lot of assets or no assets. So I'm already formulating a lot of those things. That's kind of how I do my presentation. They tell me what it is they want at that point. They tell me my biggest concern and question is, and then they'll give me 3, 4, 5 things, and I'm taking those notes, but I'm already gearing everything I'm thinking of how I can fill those needs. Okay, so that's kind of how I do my presentation.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. And so just, I want to go back to you doing Zoom a little bit, because I know it's been a lot more popular since, recent years, since 2020, obviously. And I know a lot of agents still struggle with it. I feel like in the annuity realm, it's a little bit different. I feel like in the life insurance realm, but there's a certain level of trust you have to have with a person to help them move their retirement somewhere else. And so if you're, say, I know a lot of people come to homes and our primary way of teaching is sell them what they came there for first. Sell them the mortgage policy. Then when you're leaving, ask that question of like, hey, would you like to protect that retirement if you have the option? We set an appointment, come back. But I know there's a lot of times too where the mortgage protection doesn't make sense for them. And so it's clear in that appointment that you would just write an annuity instead. So you doing that on Zoom, I imagine that it seems like that's kind of how you come across your appointments. How do you create that trust before you've even sold them a policy, like a mortgage protection policy? How do you create that trust to then write them an annuity?
So let's say I'm meeting with somebody because they've told me they want some life insurance. And I'll use a gentleman that I recently spoke with a few days ago. He said, I'm concerned that I make a majority of the money in the household and that if I pass away, my widow would not be able to pay for the house. The kids are already grown. I said, okay, great. So we're talking mortgage protection, if you will, right? So I'm thinking of term policy. So I ask him all the questions I just asked. I just told you. I said, I go through the whole thing. I find out he's got a certain amount, like he's got life insurance, but he's got a certain amount of financial assets, right? And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, he doesn't definitely have enough assets based on the mortgage he has, so the level of responsibility that he's carrying. And so I think, okay, I've already learned the fact that he's got an asset, so I'm already thinking right now to roll that over, right? Because now, how do I gain credibility on that piece? Okay, I tell him, look, I had the same exact product. I had Roth IRAs, I've had traditional IRAs, I've had mutual funds. I mean, I've tried everything because I had this vision of my future. So I was putting money everywhere I could, right? And for the last 20 years, I learned what worked and what didn't work. But in the end, I like to educate my clients. And I tell them, hey, look, before you start making decisions on what's best for you, maybe you need to gain a little bit of knowledge. And I'll pull up a Google sheet screen. I'll share the screen. I'll say, let's go talk about how money really actually operates in the market. Now I'll show them the differences. There's a couple charts I use on Google. One will show fixed and variable type of accounts. Some will show index growth strategy. So I give them a quick little, maybe a 1-2 minute class on how money operates in the market. Okay. I said, your money is strictly variable. And so your retirement is essentially, dictated by however the market is going to perform over the next 20 years. And that's a scary thing to think about, right? And then I'll typically bring up a chart, historical chart that'll show actual historical numbers of how an IRA has performed against something like an IUL, right? And by the numbers, I can clearly show them how easy the IUL will outperform the IRA, okay? So then I'm saying, okay, if you're contributing X amount of dollars to something, right? Why not divert some of those funds into something like an IUL that can give you not only that, and I explain the basic features of an IUL. So a lot of my business funnels into IUL.
And just to pause real quick right now, you were mentioning IUL. I assume we're still talking about FIA, right?
So we're actually talking IULs and FIAs.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify. Yep.
Okay. All right. So when I talk to them about IULs and FIAs, it's all about getting them into some sort of index product.
Yes.
A lot of people want a return on their investment. They're not crazy about term policies, even though sometimes that'll fit the bill.
Right.
So then I say, okay, as far as I say, look, you've got this certain asset in a IRA or a mutual fund. Let me show you something that you could. How much is it worth now? How much was it worth back in January? Because I already know right now everything's gone down, right? So they tell me, well, it was this, I've lost this much. Okay, I'm like, cool. The first thing we do is stop that thing from losing. Okay, I've got to get that moved over into something. Not only will we stop it from losing, but I can add a multiplier in the form of a participation rate. I can give you an upfront bonus, but most importantly, I can guarantee no more losses for the rest of it. And then I run a quick illustration, right? So you've got to be a little savvy on Athene's products are hard to beat. They really are hard to beat when it comes to fixed index annuity. So I run an illustration and I put that side by side. I said, X dollars in your IRA, X dollars in the annuity, and you put them side by side. There's just no comparison.
Yeah.
And so when I show them the numbers like that, it's pretty easy to get them to commit to that. Okay.
Awesome.
I show them the financials on Athene or whichever carrier I'm going to go with. I'll show them the history of how long they've been around. So a little bit of stability in the company. So getting a commitment to a fixed index annuity is probably first teaching them what an indexed growth strategy is first. Okay. Once they see that, then I show them how they can move some of that money that they worked so hard to build into that annuity and protect it.
Awesome. Yeah. So a layer of kind of like education. And then I like how you show them the credibility of Athene, because a lot of people worry about like, oh, well, they're not going to find me credible as an agent. Well, you're not the one issuing them the policy. The carrier is the one issuing them the policy. So that's where they need to be looking. And Athene has a lot of information about their financial assets and their ratings through a lot of financial rating companies. And so it's a great resource to use for sure. And then I do want to just note on, you kind of mentioned that you'll run the illustration right there in the home. And not all of our agents have the ability to do that just because it might be their first annuity. So any of you guys out there watching, we have our Ask a Specialist that you guys can use where you just go in and enter your client's information and submit that. But then as far as showing the illustration, doing all that education that you're talking about, it's a lot of resources that you can look up online. We have our website, fiabenefits.com, that have a lot of that similar stuff where it kind of shows the difference of like what your variable stock market account will do versus an FIA. So I think those are a lot of great points of just being able to create that trust in the home. And then the last thing I kind of want to touch on is just going into specifics about one of the policies you've written. So to just give some agents like an idea of what was a client looking for, and what product did you find that would help solve that need, and why did it help solve that need?
So majority of the people I talk to are concerned about, will their money be there 10, 20, 30 years from now? Because most of the people I'm talking to are somewhere in the 20, 30s, and 40s, sometimes in the 50s. Okay. And that's fine, because their concern is, will it be there in my 60s and 70s? Okay. And so I tell them, I say, okay, well, listen, I mean, there are a lot of products out there, and there's variable annuities, there's fixed annuities, there's all kinds of things out there. Let me show you the one that has been outperforming all the other ones. Okay. Bottom line. And I also tell them, I have money in this company as well, right? I've moved money. Therefore, I've done my own research because I love doing research. And so one of the things I do as an agent prior to doing that is I get onto the websites and I download a lot of their material. That way, let's say I'm doing a Zoom with them and I want to show them something, I can bring that up on screen, and I have already known how to talk to those points. But as far as what do I do as far as telling them, as far as what to look for, I ask them what's their biggest concern. And they'll tell me, a lot of times they'll tell me, well, I've been losing and I don't even know what it's going to look like by the time I get there. And I can show them like, hey, it's quite easy. If your intent is for this money to be there 10 or 15 years from now, well, they have 10 and 15-year products.
Yeah.
And there is some accessibility. And if you want more liquidity, you want more accessibility, there's riders we can attach to that, right? But generally speaking, if your concern is 10, 15-year horizon from now, well, let's put that something into where that money's going to work for you even better than it has, right? So really, it's just kind of matching the need that they have with the product that we already have available to us. And if you learn how to run those numbers, where AMS has been a big help for me is that I can submit those applications, and I'm submitting quite a few now. I'm getting to a point where it's pretty consistent. Like 5 last month was good for issue. I think I've got another more than that this month. So it's like getting to a point where submitting through AMS gives me that layer of review, and that's been helping me out as far as the efficiency piece. Right? I'm thinking about efficiency. So like now, instead of getting into back and forth with a carrier, it's submitted correctly, and I can just kind of go through and follow up on the transfer of money. So yeah, I think it's just a multi-layered approach, whether I'm utilizing AMS for my checks and the resources there, but also just understanding your product and your carrier too.
Yeah, for sure. And AMS, kind of what you're talking about for those of you guys listening, is kind of a twofold system. It's the Ask a Specialist, where we can help you guys with the illustration and product recommendation. But what you're talking about is the application review. And so after you guys have that product, you've sold it, you have to write the application. That's the longest part of the process, is getting it approved and processed and everything. So the better you can do before it even goes to the carrier, the faster that's going to be. And that's what you're talking about. And I love that you submit all those applications through us. As you get more experience, your applications are looking better. There's less corrections, but every once in a while there's something. And so I love it when people who are still experienced submit through us, because even if I'm helping someone write an application, I would want someone to double check for me as much experience as I have, because you never know what you might miss. Just like, an editor reading someone's book, or, an author's book, to double check on those things. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that you go through the carrier websites. So many people, we send you guys the illustrations and maybe we'll send you the product brochures, but there are so many resources on the carrier websites that are so valuable to look at. That are definitely worth just combing through those sites and seeing what they have, because you never know what's on there. But once you find out what's on there, you're like, oh, wow, this is a great resource. It really explains how indexing works, or it really explains how this client or how this carrier is financially stable. So I love all of those points. And then just to wrap up the call, if you have one thing that you would have to say to a brand new agent that hasn't written an annuity before, to just give them that one piece of advice, what would be your one piece of advice?
I would say have a little confidence before you go into that scenario, right? I mean, when you go into an appointment, you're working final expense mortgage protection, and you ask that question, that golden question: is there anything else you have that might act like life insurance, such as an IRA, or such as a TSP, or military, or mutual funds, or anything like that? As soon as they tell you what it is, you should have a base knowledge of what you already have, but you're going to come back at, right? Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you they do have something. You better have something in response. Awesome. I've got a great product that I can show that can help protect that thing. But you have to be able to explain some of the key features on it, right? And so I always tell people, do a little bit of research on the side, right? Call Athene, if you will. Get on YouTube and literally look up fixed index annuities and learn what a fixed index annuity is. And then more particularly, look like, what is Athene, or who is Athene? What is a performance elite? How does it work? a little bit of research ahead of time going into the appointments where you are presented with the opportunity to pull an annuity out of that household.
Yeah.
Having that little bit of credibility and that knowledge before you go in there will help you tremendously. And then you can say, look, we're going to pull the information. We're going to go ask our specialist and make sure this gets done. And then you can go rely on other people to help you out.
Yeah, for sure. I love that because, we tell people like, you don't have to have written an annuity before. You don't have to know exactly what this product is and what it does. But as far as just having a base knowledge and educating yourself on just the basics of an annuity, there is basic information out there, like you said, that you can look up. FIA Benefits, for one, is just a resource that we have. Google is great. Athena is great. All the carrier websites. So thank you so much for your input, and you're taking your time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got a lot going on. So thank you for taking the time to just get on our call today. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, Evan.
Bye.
My name is Shelby Spicer, and I have been with FFL for a little over a year now, and I have definitely specialized in writing IULs. It's one of the bigger things that I do with my clients. I definitely feel like everyone needs an IUL, and you're able to tailor it towards whatever their goals are. And one of the things that I could give to you as far as a tip on being out there is providing more value to your clients than just insurance, which is IULs, retirement, pointing them in the right direction for estate planning. And because I've been able to give my clients or potential clients more value, not only when I'm sitting down with them right there, even if I don't end up helping them then at that moment, I've been able to circle back with them and create a client friendship. And so I feel like that's been a big thing for me over the years, is just providing value. And the way that I'm able to do that is make sure that I'm asking many questions as possible and being able to see their full financial picture and not just what they need for insurance. So that's where I've been able to come up with annuities as well, and just been able to help my community. One of the biggest things for me too is I've been able to brand myself online through social media and inside my community. So I've been getting a good amount of referrals from current clients and clients over the past years to be able to set up IULs because they're happy with their service, especially with what's been going on in society with the markets dropping. They've been telling their friends about what they have. And so I've been able to set up appointments virtually from helping them there. So I hope that was helpful, and have